Hey Jenny, welcome back to the show. So, big news in the tech world. Maybe not surprising news, but definitely times significant times news. Google, our favorite search giant and ad behemoth, is facing some serious heat from the feds.
Mark, good to be here. And yeah, serious heat feels like an understatement right now. It feels like we blink, and there's another headline about Google and antitrust. What's the latest layer of complexity here?
Right? It's like a tech drama series unfolding in real time. So the big thing recently is this ruling back in April 2025, where a federal judge, Judge Brinkema, basically said, yes, Google is an illegal monopoly in the digital ad tech space. Not just search, but how they handle the ads themselves.
Okay, wait, let me get this straight. We had the Justice Department case focused more on search, and now this is specifically about their advertising technology, like the plumbing of online ads?
Exactly. The plumbing. Think about it this way. You've got publishers who have websites and want to show ads, and advertisers who want to reach people. Google built this interconnected system. They have the tools publishers use, the exchange where ads are bought and sold, and the tools advertisers use. And the ruling found that they used their control over one part, specifically the publisher ad server, that's DoubleClick for Publishers, or DFP, to basically force everyone into using their exchange, AdX.
So they had the tools publishers needed, and they used that to push publishers towards using their ad auction place, therefore controlling both ends? That doesn't sound very fair.
Pretty much. It's what they call vertical monopoly leveraging, using dominance in one part of the chain to control another. The DOJ complaint laid it out, saying it locked publishers in. If you wanted access to a lot of the premium demand, you kinda had to play ball with their whole stack. It wasn't just about having a good product. It was about controlling the flow.
And I heard something about this potentially costing them millions? Or even billions? There were numbers flying around about revenue per hour from this ad business.
Oh man, this is the cool part. Well, concerning part, I guess. Financial filings and analysis suggest this ad tech dominance was bringing in revenue at a rate of over $1 million an hour. And some estimates are putting potential consumer restitution claims, money they might have to pay back, at over $18 billion.
Over $1 million an hour? Just for the ad side? That's wild. And $18 billion in potential claims. That kind of money could definitely impact a company, even one as big as Google. But how did they allegedly use this system to, you mentioned, underpay publishers?
Yeah, the court opinion got into this. There are allegations of bid manipulation algorithms. The idea is that because they controlled everything, they could see what bids were coming in and potentially adjust things to benefit themselves or keep publisher payouts lower. Some analyses suggest smaller publishers were getting paid significantly less, like 22% below market rates, compared to larger ones.
Wow, so not only were publishers potentially forced into their system, but they might not have even been getting a fair price for their ad space? That really impacts their bottom line, especially for smaller, independent sites.
Absolutely. And it feeds into another mechanism they're accused of, cross-subsidization. Basically, profits from their search dominance, which is massive, could be used to fund expansion in the ad tech space, even running it at a loss initially, to muscle out competitors.
So the search profits power the ad tech dominance? It's all connected. This is where the potential remedies come in, right? What could the court do to fix this? I've heard things like breaking up parts of the company.
Exactly. That's the big question now, the remedy phase. There are two main approaches, structural remedies and behavioral solutions. Structural means forcing them to sell off parts of the business, like potentially the ad tech units, or even, and this is a bit further out there, but some are talking about the Chrome browser unit because of its role in the ad ecosystem.
The Chrome browser? Really? Because it's tied into how they track users for ads?
Yep. Behavioral solutions, on the other hand, would be more about changing how they operate, maybe forcing them to share data, or changing their algorithms to be more transparent and fair.
So behavioral feels like putting stricter rules on the existing system, while structural is more like breaking the system into pieces to create new competition?
That's a good way to put it. And the experts are weighing in. I was just reading about Dr. Ellen Parker at MIT's Digital Markets Lab. She apparently said Google achieved something Standard Oil couldn't, monopolizing different layers of a massive market through technical connections rather than just obvious collusion. That's a powerful point.
That paints a picture. It's not just about one product, it's about how they integrated everything to build this kind of control. So looking ahead, what are the most likely outcomes? Is a full breakup a real possibility?
It's definitely a possibility being discussed, but maybe not the most likely right now. Some forecasts put full divestiture at around a 35% chance. Behavioral remedies seem a bit more probable, maybe around 45%. But even behavioral changes could significantly impact how publishers and advertisers interact with Google.
And how does this all tie back to their other ventures? Like ad revenue is a huge part of their funding, right?
This is where it gets really interesting for the future. Yes, ad revenue is a massive engine for them. It fuels a lot of their innovation in other areas, including AI, quantum computing, you name it. If their ad revenue takes a significant hit because of these rulings, it could potentially slow down investment in those cutting-edge fields.
Okay, so a ripple effect into the future of technology. It's not just about ads, it's about where Google is investing its resources going forward. And what about the idea of them having to stop paying Apple to be the default search engine? That's a separate but related issue in the search antitrust case, right?
Precisely. That's part of the search side of things, but it shows how intertwined these cases are. If they're forced to stop that payment, it could impact their search traffic and therefore their search ad revenue, which, as we just discussed, has knock-on effects.
So is it fair to say that these antitrust challenges aren't just legal battles? They're fundamental challenges to Google's business model and its future direction?
I think that's right. This is about the mechanics of how they make money, how they interact with other players in the ecosystem, and ultimately, what kind of power a single company should have over the digital landscape. It's a redefining moment, or at least, a potential one.
Well, this is certainly a complex and evolving situation. It's going to be fascinating to see how the remedy phase plays out and what the actual impact is on publishers, advertisers, and even us as users. Thanks, Mark, for breaking down this really dense topic.
My pleasure, Jenny. Always great discussing this stuff. You know, though, it brings up an interesting point we haven't fully explored. The counterarguments. Google, predictably, doesn't see this as an unlawful monopoly. They argue their integrated system actually times benefits the market.
Right, I've heard that. They say it makes things more efficient, smoother transactions for publishers and advertisers. Like, instead of having to go to a dozen different places, it's a one-stop shop?
Exactly. They'd argue that breaking it up could lead to fragmentation, maybe higher costs for smaller players who can't navigate a more complex landscape. There's a tension there between efficiency and competition. Is a highly efficient monopoly ultimately worse than a less efficient but more competitive market?
That's a good way to frame it. And I guess if they're forced to divest, what could be the downsides for consumers? Besides possibly seeing less effective or more annoying ads, maybe?
Yeah, that's a concern some raise. If the ad ecosystem becomes less streamlined, it could potentially reduce the revenue publishers earn. And if online content creators are making less money from ads, that could impact the availability of free content we all rely on.
So paradoxically, antitrust action could potentially lead to less times accessible online content for the average user?
It's a possible negative consequence, something to consider in the remedy phase. And you know how we talked about the data suggesting publishers were underpaid? Google could argue that those analyses don't fully capture the value they add. They provide the tech, the reach, the scale. They'd say that justifies their position, and perhaps even the payout structure.
So they'd frame it as publishers getting a necessary service and exposure through their platform, and that has a cost. It's definitely not a simple black and white issue. There are legitimate arguments on both sides, even if the judge ruled against them.
Exactly. And this complexity is why the remedy phase is so important and so difficult. It's threading the needle between fostering competition without undermining the parts of the system that do times work, or have some benefits.
It makes you wonder about the best way to regulate something this complex. Like, is it purely legal action, or are there other approaches, maybe something more collaborative?
Yeah, that's a discussion worth having. It raises questions about the role of regulators in fast-moving tech markets. Can they keep up? Are the existing tools sufficient?
Good points. This whole situation makes me curious about what our listeners think. Like, if Google's ad tech dominance is broken up, how do they think it will affect their online experience? Will they even notice?
That's a great question to pose. We should maybe run a poll on that. If Google is forced to divest its ad tech businesses, do you think this will positively or negatively impact your online experience? I'd be curious to see the results.
Me too. And maybe another poll. Do you think Google's dominance in the ad tech space is harmful to the digital market, or is it necessary for efficiency? Get people thinking about that core tension we discussed.
Love it. We could also ask a discussion question. How do you think Google's dominance in ad tech affects the variety of online content available to consumers? Does it limit what gets created if publishers are struggling with ad revenue?
Oh, that's good. Forces people to think beyond just the technical details. And one more. What regulatory actions do you think would be most effective in balancing competition with efficiency in the digital advertising market? Put the listeners in the regulator's shoes.
Yeah, that'll spark some debate in the comments section. This is definitely a topic where listener interaction adds a lot. Maybe we could even do a listener call-in segment sometime. Let people share their personal experiences with online advertising. The good, the bad, the annoying.
Ha! I predict a lot of calls about intrusive pop-ups and ads that follow you around the internet. But no, seriously, hearing personal perspectives would be valuable. And maybe we need an expert debate down the line. Should Google be broken up? Get folks with different viewpoints to hash it out live.
That would be a fantastic segment. It really highlights the complexity, because while the judge made a ruling, the outcome, the remedy, could go in several directions, each with its own set of potential pros and cons. It's not a simple fix.
No, not simple at all. It's a pivotal moment for the digital economy, really. Whatever the outcome, it's likely to reshape a significant part of how the internet operates and how content is funded.
Precisely. And it underscores how deeply intertwined these tech giants are with the very fabric of online life. Their business models aren't just about making money for them. They have ripple effects across the entire ecosystem.
Well, this has been incredibly insightful, and as always, you make these complex topics understandable, Mark. Thanks for walking us through it.
My pleasure, Jenny. Always great discussing this stuff. We'll definitely keep an eye on this and bring you updates as they happen. And be sure to check out those polls and discussion questions we mentioned. We want to hear your thoughts. Until next time.
See ya later.